Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching News Tonight, where we get you the day's biggest news stories from India and across the globe. I'm Aishwarya Kapoor. Let us start the bulletin with the headlines. Divyangs are valuable assets, says Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu, confers national awards for outstanding work to empower persons with disabilities, underscores need to provide appropriate career, life-enhancing policies to boost their self-confidence. Trading across national boundaries, an economic imperative of our times, asserts Finance Minister Arun Jaitley, calls for ending barriers to free trade, informs government taking measures to provide suitable facilities for foreign firms doing business with India. With less than 48 hours to go for campaigning to end in Rajasthan and Telangana, Prime Minister calls Congress a university of falsehood in Jodhpur. In Telangana, Congress President Rahul Gandhi labels TRS and Owaisi as BJP allies. With 200 ships and 500 aircrafts, India will have world-class navy by 2050, predicts Naval Chief Admiral Sunil Lamba. Ahead of Navy Day tomorrow, informs government has approved acquisition of 56 ships and submarines. And a ratings agency Moodys projects stable outlook for banking sector over the next 12 to 18 months, predicts that strong investment and consumption will drive real GDP growth to 7.2% in current financial year and 7.4% in 2019-20. First up, let's get you all the action from the election-bound states. Returning from the G20 summit in Argentina, Prime Minister Narendra Modi took to the campaign trail in Rajasthan. He addressed an election rally in Jodhpur, where he launched a stinging attack against Congress for questioning his knowledge of Hinduism. He asked the Congress how it was related to elections in Rajasthan. The Prime Minister accused the Congress party of spreading lies, saying that the party thinks that there is no need to put in any effort, while believing that telling alone will help it to win the polls.
ये लोकतंत्र में हिंदुस्तान का हक है कि जिन 4 पीढ़ियों ने देश पर शासन किया है, उन चारों पीढ़ियों को जवाब देना पड़ेगा। ये चुनाव अगर कांग्रेस के लोग इस फिराक में होंगे कि झूठ बोल करके उनकी गाड़ी चल देगी, तो भाइयों बहनों, मैं विश्वास से कहता हूं, ये इनके सपने हिंदुस्तान के हर राज्य में चूर चूर हो गए हैं। यहां पर भी वही हाल होने वाला है।
And BJP Chief Amit Shah on Monday addressed 4 rallies in Rajasthan. In Chittorgarh, he praised the development works and the public welfare schemes of the Vasundhara Raje government. He also questioned Rahul Gandhi for not declaring a chief ministerial candidate for the state. While terming the Congress a party without a leader, policy or principles, Amit Shah also addressed a rally in Pratapgarh, Savai Madhopur and Bundi district. Remember, elections for 199 of the total 200 seats in Rajasthan are due on 7th of December.
मां अपने बच्चे का इलाज नहीं करा पाती थी। आज भारतीय जनता पार्टी के प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी ने उस गरीबों के लिए 5 लाख तक की सारी सुविधाएं मुफ्त कर आज गरीबों को सम्मान के साथ जीने का अधिकार दिया है। 2 ही महीने में 3.5 लाख गरीबों ने इस योजना का फायदा उठाया है। और ये कांग्रेसी हमें पूछते हैं, हमने क्या किया है? मित्रों, एक कांग्रेसियों की सरकार थी केंद्र में, 10 साल तक सरकार रही। सोनिया मनमोहन की सरकार रही, 10 साल तक सरकार रही, मगर एक कांग्रेस ने राजस्थान को क्या दिया?
So campaigning has reached its peak in Rajasthan. Campaigning in the state, Rajasthan Congress chief Sachin Pilot also sought public support for his party. He said that our manifesto is very clear with no jumla or false promises. Sachin Pilot also criticized the state government and said that the people will unseat the Saffron Brigade in the upcoming polls. He addressed multiple meetings in Chunchunu, Sikar, Jaipur and in Ajmer. Meanwhile, former Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot is also campaigning for his party. He held 4 public meetings in Jalore, Sirohi, Dungarpur and Bundi district on Monday. He asserted that there was a strong way for the Congress party in Rajasthan and the party will win the upcoming assembly election with a huge margin. News from polebound Telangana now. Congress President Rahul Gandhi canvassed for his party candidates in Telangana today. He addressed 2 rallies in Gadwal and in Tandur, and he criticized the TRS and the BJP. He alleged that Prime Minister Narendra Modi and caretaker Telangana Chief Minister K. Chandrasekhar Rao had entered a partnership to ensure the continuation of the BJP and TRS rule at the central and the state level. He further said that under the TRS government, the dream of a golden Telangana had become a golden Kutumbakam, that is, golden family.
जब आपका प्रदेश पैदा हुआ था, आप पे कोई कर्ज नहीं था। सरकार के पास 17,000 करोड़ रुपए सरप्लस पैसा था, मगर आज तेलंगाना के हर परिवार पर 2.5 लाख रुपए का कर्जा है। तो जहां बंगारू तेलंगाना की बात चली थी, 5 साल में वो बंगारू कुटुंबम में बदल गई।
Those were all election-related news. Let's get to some other news now. Amid concerns of a trade war, Finance Minister Arun Jaitley on Monday called for dismantling the trade barriers. Addressing the 80th session of the Policy Commission of the World Customs Organization in Mumbai through video conferencing, Arun Jaitley said that trading across borders has become an economic imperative of our times, and it is in every nation's interest to bring down the trade barriers for the global economy. The Finance Minister added that trade barriers have a significant impact on transactional costs, and any delay, either due to lack of infrastructure or on account of procedures, increases costs and blunts the competitiveness of trade. And today is International Day of Persons with Disabilities, and marking the occasion, Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu conferred the National Awards for Outstanding Achievements and the work done towards the empowerment of persons with disabilities. Take a look at this report.
Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu on Monday underscored the need to change mindsets through intense awareness campaigns to remove the stigma attached to disability. He was addressing the gathering after conferring national awards for outstanding work done towards empowerment of persons with disabilities. The Vice President reminded that society has a duty towards fellow human beings to help them lead lives of quality with dignity.
Special duty to take care of the less fortunate brethren or sisters who for some reason or other has some shortcoming in their physical limbs. So it is the duty of the family at the first instance, duty of the society second instance, and duty of the government, be state government or central government, that is a duty.
Naidu said the government has taken a number of initiatives to systematically address challenges faced by persons with disabilities, but they still have a long way to go. He said legislations like the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act 2016 focuses on various key elements of empowerment of people with disabilities.
What they need is empathy, not sympathy. What is required is not sympathy, empathy. They need appropriate career and life-enhancing policies and programs to lead a dignified life. They need measures to boost their self-confidence. उनका आत्मविश्वास बढ़ाना चाहिए, उनको प्रशिक्षण देना चाहिए, उनको प्रोत्साहन देना चाहिए, उनको आर्थिक स्तर पे भी मदद करना चाहिए.
56 individuals and 16 institutions were felicitated on the occasion. National awards were given under 14 broad categories. December 3rd every year is the International Day of Persons with Disabilities, a practice started by a United Nations General Assembly resolution since 1992. The day aims to promote the rights and well-being of persons with disabilities. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
In News Tonight, we'll take a very short break here. We'll be right back with more news. Stay tuned.
Watch The Big Picture with me, Frank Rausen Pereira, at 9:30 p.m.
Hello and welcome. I'm Chakshu Roy and you're watching Laws in the Making on Rajya Sabha TV.
One of the changes that has been brought about by the bill is to allow for the appointment of technical experts.
It is a very good step for a developing nation.
Government wants to change this law to cope up with all those transactions like just foreign direct investment.
Watch Laws in the Making on Rajya Sabha Television.
Welcome back after the break. Let's get you some other news. Well, rating agency Moodys has projected a stable outlook for the banking sector in India over the next 12 to 18 months. Moodys Investor Services outlook for the sector for India is Baa2 stable. The outlook is based on healthy economic growth and weak but stabilizing asset quality. The outlook is part of the report on Indian banks titled Economic Strength and Stabilized Asset Quality Support Stable Outlook. The stable outlook is based on Moody's assessment of 6 drivers. Now, these 6 drivers are operating environment, asset quality, capital funding and liquidity, profitability and efficacy, and government support. And with the operating environment, Moodys says that the environment will stay stable, supported by robust economic growth. Moodys expects that real GDP in India will grow 7.2% in the year ending March 2019 and 7.4% in the following year, driven by investment growth and strong consumption. On asset quality, Moodys says that this factor will remain stable but weak as the cleanup of the legacy problem loans nears completion and corporate health improves. The report also says that the funding and liquidity in the banks will stay strong. So let us try to understand what the ratings agency Moodys has actually said. We have with us Mr. K.A. Badrinath, the editor of the Policy Financial Chronicle, joining us. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us here on Rajya Sabha Television. Sir, Moody's outlook has estimated GDP for the current financial year to grow at 7.2% and the next financial year at 7.4%. And it has stated that the growth will be driven by investment and strong consumption. So try to make it understand for our viewers, what does this really mean?
See, the point here is the Moody's rating has 2 aspects. One is the banking aspect, second is the GDP aspect. GDP, there has not been much of a change in the sense that for the next year, I think they would have proposed 7.4% as the GDP growth. And this year, this financial year, it is about 7.1 or 7.2%. Yes. And they must have gone by the Reserve Bank data, where it is about 7.1%. The GDP second quarter or the first half or the second quarter is about 7.1%, and the first quarter it was 8.6%. So point here is that your entire growth this financial year is likely to be anywhere between 7.2% or 8.6%. But they have taken a very cautious note to project 7.2% and for the next year 7.4%, factoring in a lot of uncertainties in the run-up to the election.
So as
In
you
the case of banking part,
yes,
that is the second part where you think this is where I think there's a lot of improvement that has happened in the banking sector. In the sense that you have non-performing loans of about 10.8 lakh crores, which has been built up over the 10 to 15 years. And my guess is, if the data of the Corporate Affairs Ministry is any indication, it is that about 3.5 lakh crores are under the resolution process. That means if you reduce the amount of sticky loans by 3.5 lakh crores, that means you have so much space for the banks to lend. And henceforth, the issue here will be that more and more corporate loans will be available, and henceforth, the more and more industrial activity will happen in a big way.
Absolutely.
And in the sense that you remember that the Corporate Affairs Ministry had said that about 9,500 cases where there is a lot of bad loans were there have been referred to the NCLT proceeding process where this resolution happens.
Right.
In that, even before the admission stage, about 1,500 cases have been resolved, and that means about 1 to 1.5 lakh crores gets released, and banks have settled. Lesser disputes means more and more money is available with the bank to lend. If you see the latest credit offtake data, it is about 15% growth in the offtake of credit has been reported for the first half of this financial year.
Right.
Henceforth, it's a positive sign, and the banks can do much better if this process continues in the next month without being impacted by the election activity.
Right. So the Moodys also says that the bank's second quarter performance shows that a fresh bad loan creation from corporate books they have shrunk. So what are the implications now?
See, the implications here, the implication is clear.
Right.
As the process of resolution takes place, more and more companies, you remember that the chief financial advisor in the finance ministry has referred to twin problems of, the twin balance sheet problem. One, the sticky loans with the banks. Second one is the corporate balance sheets, which have built up a lot of unpayable loans because of the exposure.
Right.
And this needs to be sorted out. The process is on. For till last 4 years back, this NCLT process has not picked up. Now that there is a clear, after the IBC code that was adopted by the parliament, this process has taken in a very fast process. But there is a lot that can be done to clear up this issue, and so that companies know where they are in terms of borrowing, and the banks also know how much money is available to them at this point of time to lend, so that industrial activity picks up, economic growth picks up, and there is positivity all around.
Absolutely. So Moody is giving a positive outlook for the Indian banking sector. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us and sharing your views and perspective on that entire story. Thank you so much. All right, let's get you some other news now. The Supreme Court on Monday directed the Maharashtra government to submit before it the charge sheet filed against arrested rights activists before a Pune court in connection with the Koregaon Bhima violence case. A bench comprising Chief Justice Ranjan Gogoi, Justices S.K. Kaul and K.M. Joseph said, and they have posted the appeal for further hearing on 11th of December. The Pune police had arrested lawyer Surendra Kaling, Nagpur University professor Shama Sen, Dalit activist Sudhir Dhawale, activist Mahesh Raut, and Kerala native Rona Wilson in the month of June for their alleged links with Maoists under the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, or the UAPA. More news from Maharashtra. The state government on Monday filed a caveat before the Supreme Court on the Maratha Reservation Act. Now, a caveat is a legal process a party files in court when it believes that the court may grant a hearing in the matter. It ensures that the court hears its side before passing any order. Both houses of the State Assembly passed the Maratha Reservation Act on 29th of November. Maharashtra Governor C. Vidyasakar Rao signed the bill that proposes 16% reservation for Marathas under educationally and socially backward category. The bill gives a 16% reservation in government jobs and admission in government institutions as well. And Navy Chief Admiral Sunil Lamba says that India will have a world-class Navy by 2050. Addressing a press conference on the eve of Navy Day, he said that by then, India will have 200 ships, 500 aircrafts. Admiral Lamba further added that the government has approved 56 ships and submarines. Now, some will replace the existing fleet and include new ships like fleet ships, submarines and minesweepers. He added that Indian Navy is fully capable to meet the traditional and the non-traditional threats in the Indian Ocean. Navy Day is observed on 4th of December to mark the famous ship-launched attack on Karachi during the 1971 Indo-Pak War.
Induction of new assets and capabilities are being progressed in consonance with the Indian Navy's long-term perspective plan. Before I come to specifics of the projects, I will briefly update you on our thrust towards supporting the Make in India vision. Since 2014, 82% of acceptance of necessity or AONs on cost basis have been accorded to Indian vendors. During the same period, 72% of cost of contracts concluded are with Indian vendors. Further, more than 2/3 of Navy's modernization budget has been spent on indigenous procurement in the last 4 financial years. Nearly 60% of naval budget is earmarked for modernization and capital expenditure. This healthy ratio is achieved through careful control of revenue expenditure and stretching every rupee to its maximum. If I crystal gaze and look ahead to 2050, I see an Indian Navy which will be a 200-ship Navy with an air wing of about 500 aircrafts, and we also will be a world-class Navy.
In a special gesture to the growing friendship between India and the UAE, External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj will inaugurate the Museum of Mahatma Gandhi along with the Sheikh Zayed, the founder of modern Emirates in Abu Dhabi on Tuesday. India is celebrating the 150th birth anniversary of Gandhiji and the birth of the father of modern UAE. Take a look at this report. External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj will share a joint commission meeting with Foreign Minister of UAE, Sheikh Abdullah bin Zayed Al Nahyan on Tuesday. It will be crucial to operationalize the UAE's dedicated fund for infrastructure investment in India worth $75 billion.
We need to look at how we deal with such investments. There are regulatory issues here. I know that the sovereign wealth funds in the oil-rich countries, they want to invest, but they want a fixed rate of return.
The UAE India Infrastructure Investment Fund was set up as a follow-up of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to the UAE in August 2015. It supports investment in India's railways, ports, roads, airports and industrial corridors and parks. Both countries have developed tremendous bonhomie on issues of terrorism. In her visit to Abu Dhabi, Sushma Swaraj will stress upon the Emirates' leadership to increase intelligence sharing and money laundering information.
Dawood Ibrahim is in Pakistan, but then some of his operatives may be still there. I do not know the details, but I can tell you that the UAE has been cooperative, and I think there is, as I said, intelligence cooperation on these issues. And I expect that if some solid evidence is there against anybody, the UAE government will not hesitate to cooperate with India.
India and UAE are also working on defense cooperation. 2 joint military exercises were conducted in March and May to deepen defense tie-up between the two countries. The UAE is the 6th largest source of Indian oil imports and hosts a 3.3 million strong Indian community.
It is strategically one of the most important for India in the Gulf, and talks will also include enhanced oil supply from UAE in the age of increasing oil prices in the world.
India and UAE are comprehensive strategic partners with a trade of $50 billion per year. While UAE is sensitive towards India's security needs, it has high hopes in India's emerging market. The Joint Commission meeting will deliberate on all comprehensive issues between the two countries. Akhilesh Suman for Rajya Sabha Television with camera person Saroj in Delhi.
On the international news now, French President Emmanuel Macron Monday held an urgent security meeting, though so far he has stopped short of imposing a state of emergency in the country. Macron was forced to fly home from the G20 summit in Argentina for an emergency hurdle with the advisors on how to quell his country's worst civil unrest.
French President Emmanuel Macron held an urgent security meeting on Monday after a day of riots by thousands of anti-government protesters. France is facing its worst civil unrest in 50 years. The unrest started on 17th of November as a backlash against fuel tax hikes but has spread. Over 400 people have been arrested. The French ambulance service also joined the nationwide protests. At the security meeting called by Macron, ministers said that while no options had been ruled out, imposing a state of emergency had not been discussed.
On a manifesté déjà le 5 novembre, le 16 novembre et donc aujourd'hui le 3 décembre contre l'article 80 et contre l'article 29 de la nouvelle loi de finances de la sécurité sociale. Ces articles de loi en fait vont nous empêcher intégralement de travailler.
3 people have been killed, over 250 people reported to be injured, including 23 members of the security forces in the protests. The activists torched cars, smashed monuments, looted shops and clashed with the police in what has been called the Yellow Vest protest. Macron Sunday also surveyed the damage. He has so far refused to roll back taxes on fuel, which he says are needed to fund the country's transition to a low-emission economy. Neighboring countries have expressed concern over the developments.
Frankreich ist für seine besondere Protestkultur bekannt. Ich glaube, das sehen wir auch jetzt. Aber nach all dem, was ich höre, auch was es jetzt an Gesprächen geben soll, sind wir guter Dinge, dass sich die Lage dort auch auf absehbare Zeit wieder beruhigen wird.
The unrest has refused to die down despite Macron's conciliatory moves. It poses the most formidable challenge yet to Macron's presidency, with the escalating violence and depth of public anger against his economic reforms catching the leader off guard and battling to regain control. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And in more international news, energy-rich Qatar will withdraw from the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries in January after 57 years. The organization, better known as the OPEC, is an intergovernmental organization of 15 nations which acts as a regulatory body to ensure stabilization of world oil markets. The decision came after Qatar reviewed ways to enhance its role internationally and plan long-term strategy. Qatar said on Monday that it was quitting OPEC from January 2019, but would attend the oil exporter group's meeting this week, meaning that it would focus on cementing its position as the world's top LNG or the liquefied natural gas exporter. It is noteworthy that Qatar is one of the OPEC countries' smallest producers, but the world's largest liquefied natural gas exporter. And oil prices surged about 5% on Monday after the United States and China agreed to a 90-day truce in their trade war. But the Brent crude is still trading at around $62 a barrel, which is well below October's peak of more than $86. And finally, ahead of his 90th birthday next year, cartoon character Popeye the Sailor is getting a makeover. Now, some of the highlights of his new avatar include a whistle instead of a pipe in his mouth, and Popeye's spinach still gives him superpowers. But girlfriend Olive no longer plays a damsel in distress. She is now an independent girl, and brutish Bluto is still big, but he doesn't manhandle Olive. His new goal is only to steal Popeye's spinach. So we'll leave you with a sneak peek of this universally liked cartoon character in his all-new look. Take a look. Thanks for watching.
Hello. trucks in front. Hey, bro, boo!